This point by General V.P. Malik, who's the former Chief of Army Staff. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. My first question to you, what do you make out of what's happening in Jammu and Kashmir as we speak?
Well, we've had some incidents in Poonch Rajouri a few months earlier, and now in the last 72 hours, we've had 3 incidents. And the other thing that I want people to remember is that Jammu strategically is more important because for India and Indians, people go to Kashmir through Jammu. And now, very soon, we are going to have Amarnath Yatra, and all the tourists from India will be going along the highway from Jammu to Pahalgam and other places. So Jammu is very important, and these few incidents that have taken place, particularly in the last 72 hours, these must be noticed carefully. Now, one incident at Hiranagar has taken place very close to the border, international border. The other 2 incidents, one in Reasi and the other in Doda, these incidents have taken place far away from the LOC and the border. So which means that these are different gangs which are there, and the ones in Reasi and Doda apparently have come much earlier, and they have been there to notice what kind of security situation is there, and they have targeted the people after reading the situation properly. So I think we have to be careful, and this requires a strong reaction, not only on our side of the border, but also on the other side of the border and LOC. But first, I'd like to say that we must strengthen our surveillance along the line of control and the international border. And that involves taking the population into confidence. Hiranagar incident, you would have noticed that these terrorists were spotted by the civilians, the locals. They gave information to the police, and then we reacted, the security forces reacted with police. And the terrorists were neutralized. In other 2 situations, terrorists seem to have got away. So the surveillance along the line of control and border, along with the civilian population, I think needs to be strengthened. If there is any complacency, we must get out of that. That is one aspect. The other aspect, I think, is, as I said, we must react strongly, because we can't permit Pakistan to continue doing things like this. We have a ceasefire with Pakistan, but it doesn't mean that we permit them to carry out this kind of infiltration. And I think that ceasefire needs to be made conditional, that if these activities continue to take place, then we should have the right to go across and do the strategic strike as we did earlier, or even Balakot. Right. All these things, I think, will become necessary.
In fact, General V.P. Malik, some of these areas have been peaceful for several months. I mean, at least 2 years or more. There's been peace in these areas. So that also being a big concern.
Recently I was on a tour in Kashmir, and I noticed that while the situation appears to be very good on the surface, but while speaking to some people from the security forces, I got the impression that they felt that things doesn't seem to be all right under the surface. So we have to be careful. The other thing is that the terrorists and their supporters, they are quite expert by now in exploiting wherever they find some space. Now, Reasi has been a space vacant for some time. We had pulled out some troops from Reasi and even from Poonch Rajouri. So wherever you find they find space, the security forces have been thinned for whatever reasons, then they will go and exploit that.
Okay. General VP Malik, do you see a need for a tactical change in India's surveillance?
No, look, if people, although I cannot deny the fact that small gangs of terrorists or in twos and threes, they can come through the infiltration checks that we have got. So we have to just review our surveillance grids along the line of control and the border. And in that, not only are the security forces should use their technology as much as possible, but we must not forget the human resource. Particularly, I find that locals. Now, Hiranagar incident, apparently these people had managed to come through the grid, but then they were spotted by the terrorists. So we need to strengthen our grids, surveillance grids, not only with the technology, but also with the human resource, particularly the villages that we have along the line of control and the border.
Okay, General VP Malik, I don't want to drag you into politics, but Prime Minister Modi, Amit Shah, several top leaders have gone ahead and spoken about how there's been a drastic drop in terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. They've said this over a period of time, particularly end of last year as well as the beginning of this year, also in light of the abrogation of the article as well. Now, my question is, does this need a revisit?
Look, there is no doubt statistically things have improved a lot. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean that we become complacent, because I can assure you, wherever any complacency takes place, it will be exploited by the adversary. They have been indulging in this kind of activity for the last so many decades now, and they have become expert. And they will continue with their proxy war, Pakistan Army in particular. Some people say that we should talk to the Pakistani politicians. I mean, that has no meaning at all, because all this is being orchestrated by the Pakistan Army and their terrorist outfits like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed from the other side. And they have become expert in exploiting wherever they find a loophole in our surveillance system.
Okay, my last question, General. Look at the timing of these terror attacks. You've had the Lok Sabha elections. You've had the Amarnath season is going to begin. Amarnath Yatra season is going to begin. And also you have assembly polls around the corner likely very soon.
Yes, I said, you are right. That's why I said that we have to take these things seriously, particularly Yatra, which is coming up. I think by the end of this month, they will start. The Yatris will start moving from Jammu all the way to Pahalgam and Baltal. So now we will have to strengthen our security grid all along the highway. And we have to be more careful. You cannot rule out even two people with guns. They can cause a huge problem on the Yatris. It has happened earlier. It has happened in Pulwama also. It was during that season only. And it can happen. So we have to be very careful in establishing our security grid along the highway. As far as the elections are concerned, I know people are wanting to hold elections, but I feel that, we must stabilize the security situation before we indulge in. We've had good elections for the parliament, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean the situation will carry on. The other side is looking at it, and they will connect and they will try to disturb things as much as possible. So we must assess situation very carefully before we declare elections or start holding elections in the month of September or whatever date the government decides. It may even have to be postponed if the security situation, in my opinion, if it is not all right, then we may have to postpone it to next year.